Land stretching beyond the horizon. All of it belonging to the Piapot First Nation in southern Saskatchewan. Land that recalls the traditions of the past and holds the promise of the future. But some here say their past has been betrayed and their future stolen. Her life wasn't supposed to be like this. April Major says she should have a career by now.
Just one office manager.
Instead, she's just scrambling to find a job. Major is a member of the Piapot First Nation, but she lives 50 kilometers away in Regina. 10 years ago, her reserve was full of promise, and she thought jobs would be plentiful. But that promise was broken.
I could have been learning how to run a business, but now I'm in the First Nations Employment Center trying to find even a cashier's job.
Piapot is a small community nestled in the Capel Valley. The peaceful setting masks a reserve in crisis, high unemployment and rampant poverty. Like Major, band members here had hopes of a better life.
But now that's all there is suffering. There's nothing out there for the youth. There's nothing out there when a family member is in crisis with a serious financial problem arising. There's nowhere now for them to turn.
Their hopes began here more than 12 years ago. This was the day the governments of Canada and Saskatchewan paid their debt to the province's First Nations.
With the signing of this agreement on Treaty Land Entitlement, the page has been turned. The mistakes of the past will not be repeated.
When the treaties were signed more than 100 years ago, the province's 29 First Nations were shortchanged. They didn't receive all the land they were owed. This deal, worth $500 million, would help them buy 1.2 million acres, land that would clear up the debt.
This is going to make a different life for all of us.
The deal was negotiated by Roland Crow, then chief of the Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations.
It's the beginning of a different world, an environment where we can have a decent place for economic employment opportunities, a decent land base to raise our children, and a decent place for our families to grow.
Piapot's share was $36 million. It purchased thousands of acres in southern Saskatchewan, mostly farm or ranch land. After negotiating the land deal, Roland Crow was defeated as chief of the Federation and elected chief of the Piapot First Nation. There, he put in place the deal he negotiated.
It was our time to say, we're going to do the best to help as many people as we can, and we're going to stand behind those people who want to make a change for themselves.
Crow says he and the band council handed out the land to people who said they wanted to build a better life.
My theory is, if you show initiative and you're trying to do something, I think you do everything within your power, which I did, to give those people a chance at life.
The corridor starts at the tree line there, and it goes, a mile down there, and it ends down at this tree line here, and it goes north.
Claude Friday received 8 quarter sections from the band, almost 1,300 acres.
They allocated to quite a few band members, and band members have a chance at, getting into farming, cattle, horses, whatever it may be, or partners, I don't know, it's up to the individuals.
The band is still the legal owner. It just assigns land to individuals, like Claude Friday. The former chief and band councillor doesn't personally farm his land. He rents it out to farmers and collects between $15,000 and $20,000 a year. That money goes straight into his pocket. He says he received the land because he was persistent.
He started, doling out land, so I thought, I'd write, and then, write and write and write, and...
Hello, puppies. Hello, my puppies. Come on.
Bob Obi says the only land he has is the yard that surrounds his house on reserve.
For my own self, I didn't know that I could have asked for land and gotten it. It was never made public.
Obi says those who have power and influence on reserve got land. People like him didn't.
Certain people, certain families benefited at the expense of others. It wasn't very fair about how things went. Only certain individuals acquired large amounts of land, and the majority of the band members were left out.
In fact, documents uncovered by CBC show that of the 2,000 members of the Payapot Reserve, only 70 received land. Many of them were band leaders or related to them. Brenda Kashawadam is a band counselor. She says land is seen as a perk of the office, a perk that was offered to her when she was elected.
So they wanted to give me land. I said, no, I don't need it. Give it to somebody else that knows what to do with land. I'm not a farmer. And I wasn't going to take land just to be able to put some money into my pocket. Everybody in council at that time was grabbing a parcel of land. I didn't want to be in that bunch just to get something I could have because I was a band councillor.
April Major says the issue of land, who has it and who doesn't, is tearing her band apart.
And of course that's going to cause trouble because that person next to them that has nothing sees them driving a 2005 car and they can't even get a $200 beater.
Major says the band has it all wrong. The land was supposed to be for the benefit of everyone on reserve. That means the band should have collected the rent, used it to pay for programs and services, and developed businesses and created jobs.
This is what these lands were for, is to help that individual to get past these hurdles and to improve themselves. There's no type of programs for anybody out there. But people have land, and who is that benefiting? That's not benefiting the whole band. That's benefiting that family, and that family only.
How long ago was this then?
This was back in '98.
Major points to this campground on the outskirts of Regina as a lost opportunity. At one time, the band considered buying and running it, but it decided not to, and this man bought it instead.
Your win, our loss. It makes me angry because our band, if it was done properly and no one walked in there with their own personal agenda when they became leaders of our membership, it should be it should be our band that has businesses in and around Regina. It should have been us to lead the way for the rest of the bands.
Instead of leading the way, Payapot is actually going backwards. It hasn't paid property taxes on any of its lands for 3 years, putting the tax bill at hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And they indicate that they will try to deal with it, but we just don't see any results.
Donna Strudwick is the administrator of one of 6 municipalities where the band owns land. It has already taken action, seizing this land and selling it for more than $140,000, enough to pay the outstanding tax bill, at least for now.
There's been no indication that the taxes are going to be kept in a current position, and certainly we're concerned that we could fall right back into the same scenario.
Other municipalities are preparing to take similar action.
I don't think that most of the membership is aware of how deeply we are in trouble with this land and the consequences for the future.
Obi says this problem is in part the fault of Indian and Northern Affairs Canada, or INAC. He says it needs to fix this.
Indian Affairs chose to let leadership run the way they wanted to without training, without following their own guidelines, without following their own laws. Basically, leadership raped the people. They raped their own people.
INAC says it disagrees with the way Payapot leadership doles out the land, but it won't step in.
This is 2005, it's not 1905. INAC isn't Big Daddy, telling First Nations what to do all the time. The First Nations run most of the programming in the communities. And this is their money. They were owed it. And so we paid the debt.
James Parker says INAC offers training and support for bands to deal with land management.
But ultimately, the solution lies within the community. This is an issue for band council to grapple with. There are political processes in the community to deal with this issue. There are elections.
We made several attempts to arrange an interview with current Chief Murray Ironchild, but he refused to talk to us on camera. In a telephone conversation, he said he has no obligation to answer questions of the media. He only answers to band members. These documents show that Ironchild controls around 10 quarter sections of land. That's about 1,600 acres.
Who's holding the band leaders accountable? How can membership hold them accountable when we have no authority? Once someone walks in there as chief or council, they feel that membership has no authority or say or any opinion on what's going on at the band level.
But band members' sharpest criticism is aimed at the man who negotiated the deal in the first place, Roland Crow. Not only did he hand out land to others, he received more than 20 quarter sections himself, more than any other band member. Another 50 quarter sections went to his family.
I think if there was ever a dream come true, I think that was it, to be able to have the ability to farm and to have land.
Crow says he farms some of his land, some he rents out. He says farming's not easy these days, and his success is due to hard work.
And people will say, yes, you know, Roland Crow has had a lot of opportunities. But let me tell you that I had no more opportunities than many of our brothers and sisters on the reserve.
Band members say that's ridiculous. Crow took advantage of his positions of power.
He was there to fulfill his own personal agenda, his own financial needs at the time.
It's disgusting how one person can do that to his own people.
If it's only a few that are benefiting from what was supposed to be for the group, then isn't that wrong?
If I was the only one, elected or unelected, had lands from the Treaty Land Entitlement Agreement, I would really agree that something went wrong. But I am not the only one. And I don't begrudge any of my fellow band members, relatives, otherwise, who have land. All I do is I wish them well.
And Crow has a message for his critics.
I think we should be using complimentary instead of critical. And I guess if we use the old term of circling the wagons, I think sometimes we circle the wagons and we shoot inside instead of shooting outside.
Major and her family are wondering what can be done. Her mother, an elder from Piapot, says somehow things must change.
If this happened in your white world, it would be made public, justice would get in there.
But Piapot's land conflict isn't entirely black and white, not even within Major's family. Both her mother and sister acknowledge that they received land as well.
That was Roland's divide and conquer. I'm not arguing with my family, and I won't argue with my family because of the land. No one's seen the big picture what Roland was doing.
So what's her next
But they say they see it now, and they're both willing to give back the land.
If we're trying to hold chief and council accountable, we all should be held accountable. And I mean, I would give back the land, but I want to know where the money's going. If it's going to line the chief's daughter's pocket or, you know, buy them a new truck, like, I'm against it.
All band members who have land, including my family, should relinquish the lands back to the band, and they should be operated by band leadership, honest band leadership, for the benefit of the whole band. That's the only way that our reserve, on and off the reserve, are going to heal.
Major says until then, Piapot's future will still be on hold. and people like her will still be on the outside looking in. Jeff Leo, CBC News, Regina.